This section frames the economy as a system shaped by government priorities, trade, and national competitiveness. However, it argues that past policies have failed everyday citizens by prioritizing unfettered globalization over domestic stability. This shift in approach directly impacts the availability of local manufacturing jobs, the prices we pay for consumer goods, and the security of our everyday supply chains.
Welcome to Social Civics, a channel where we break down the ideas, systems, and institutions that shape our civic life. Today, we're walking through Project 2025, Section 4, the Economy, and Chapter 21, the Department of Commerce. So let's dive right into this and look at how these proposed policies are actually designed to fundamentally reshape the institutions that govern American business. As we navigate through all this material, we're going to focus on one central guiding question. What kind of economic system and government role does this section propose for America's future? We'll be looking specifically at how the text balances the free market with national security and, of course, institutional reform. Section 1. Reshaping the American Economy, a Structural Overhaul.
The preamble to the economy section really sets up a foundational philosophical debate about America's economic future. You see, for the last several decades, leaders generally embraced an unfettered free trade model. The idea was that limited government intervention naturally lowers consumer prices, spurs growth, and maintains peaceful international relations. But the document argues this model has essentially hollowed out the American industrial base, all while enriching foreign adversaries. Instead, it proposes a massive shift to fair and reciprocal trade. This is an aggressive protectionist approach that uses tariffs and strict government intervention to actively defend the American defense industrial base and forcibly bring manufacturing jobs back to U.S. soil.
When we consider U.S. real GDP per capita over the last few decades, there's steady, unquestionable macroeconomic growth. It's just consistently going up. But the authors advocating for aggressive trade reform argue that this big-picture growth is actually masking a much deeper structural problem. They contend that while the overall economy expanded, the benefits were vastly uneven. The text argues that this specific type of growth resulted in closed American factories, outsourced everyday jobs, and an economy that's become way too dependent on financial services rather than the physical manufacturing of actual goods.
Section 2. Reforming the Commerce Department. Executing a new vision.
To really understand these proposed reforms, we have to look at the specific institution tasked with managing them, the Department of Commerce. The text argues that commerce has suffered from decades of regulatory capture and ideological drift. In fact, the document notes an old joke that the department is essentially just a disorganized holding company for government functions that couldn't be housed anywhere else. It points to sub-agencies like the Census Bureau, the Bureau of Economic Analysis, and NOAA, the folks who handle our weather data, as bloated bureaucracies that need strict federal oversight or even outright privatization. So, instead of a disorganized holding company for data and weather, the plan envisions the agency as a singular, unified voice for American business.
To correct this perceived mission drift, the chapter proposes some really significant structural and political reforms. The primary goal here is to assert much tighter political control over the agency's bureaucracy right from day one. The plan emphasizes the absolute need to rapidly fill Assistant Secretary and Deputy Assistant Secretary roles with aligned political appointees. By installing leadership that is fully dedicated to the incoming administration's policy, the authors believe they can ensure the bureaucracy executes a new conservative economic agenda without any resistance. And this political alignment extends pretty deep into agency functions, including reforming exactly how economic data is collected and fundamentally changing how census questions are framed.
Section 3. Trade enforcement and supply chains.
So how does a reorganized bureaucracy actually impact the everyday citizen? Well, it mostly comes down to trade enforcement. Let's look at the International Trade Administration, or the ITA. It's a major sub-agency within commerce. The document calls for a highly empowered ITA that acts as a shield for domestic industry, local manufacturing, and the security of our everyday goods. Instead of taking a passive role, this reformed agency would actively and aggressively enforce existing trade rules. It would be tasked with defending against international trade violations, countering illegal foreign subsidies, and independently initiating anti-dumping proceedings. In plain language, the government would actively step in to prevent foreign competitors from flooding the U.S. market with artificially cheap goods.
Section 4. Data, Tech, and Decoupling.
Moving beyond physical cargo, the text shifts to data, technology, and some severe national security concerns regarding China. This brings us to a really defining concept in the chapter: strategic decoupling. The document defines this as the intentional breaking of economic and supply chain dependencies on a strategic adversary to protect the nation's security. The text argues that the United States must completely shift its approach from attempting to negotiate with China to defensively separating from it. Practically speaking, this means systematically eliminating American reliance on foreign supply chains for essential, everyday items like pharmaceuticals, critical minerals, and advanced technology.
The text outlines specific categories of economic aggression, such as the acquisition of key technologies and intellectual property. To counter this, the text highlights another commerce sub-agency, the Bureau of Industry and Security. Under the proposed plan, this bureau would play a frontline role in stopping the transfer of what are called dual-use technologies. We're talking about items like advanced semiconductors or artificial intelligence that have totally standard commercial uses but can also be used for military advancement. The document proposes strict export controls and a real tightening of rules surrounding international research, all to ensure adversaries absolutely cannot access American innovation.
Section 5. The New Power Center. Connecting the System.
Okay, let's pull all of these threads together, because these individual steps connect to form a much larger unified system. First, realigning the overarching trade philosophy dictates the government's economic goals. Second, reforming the bureaucracy, from trade administrators all the way to census data collection, ensures those goals are rapidly executed with aligned leadership. Third, actively enforcing trade rules and technology export controls directly protects domestic industry. And finally, all of these elements work in tandem to secure national competitiveness. So in this proposed system, trade policy actively shapes manufacturing, government structure enables strict enforcement, and technology controls secure the nation's overall economic power.
When you view the chapter through this broader lens, the core insight becomes very, very clear. This section fundamentally seeks to reshape the Department of Commerce. It proposes taking an institution historically viewed as a somewhat disorganized, background administrative agency and transforming it into a highly focused, frontline weapon for economic nationalism and national security. If you're interested in learning more about the ideas and institutions that shape our civic life, consider subscribing to Social Civics. This channel exists to help everyday citizens better understand the systems we all live under. Thanks for watching.